All right, a live look at the White House right now. Current time is 1:20 in the afternoon. We could be just hours away from President Trump signing into law a bill that would release the so-called Epstein files within the next month or so. Thousands of documents related to the late disgraced sex offender Jeffrey Epstein and his connections, network of the rich and powerful in the U.S. and around the world. The U.S. House of Representatives and then the Senate both overwhelmingly voting to release all government documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. This is something that the president had resisted for many, many months, but when it became clear that even Republicans wanted them released, the president then changed his mind and said it should all be released. We don't know how damaging the Epstein files may be for anyone connected to the president, including himself, or to another number of people in the U.S. and countries around the world. Eric O'Neill is standing by. Eric is a former FBI counterintelligence operative, national security lawyer. He is in Washington, D.C. today. Thanks for your time today.
It's good to be here.
All right, your read on what this is actually going to mean here. Give us the broad strokes.
Well, I think that we're going to not see as much as people really want to see. And the reason I say that is because I understand from having worked within government and also working on the other side as a national security attorney trying to get information from the government that the government loves to redact information. And there will be many different buckets of information that are not going to be present in the DOJ's investigation files. And I think that a lot of the information that may be redacted are things that people really want to see.
I was going to ask, is it possible that anything related to the president could be redacted, Eric?
Well, it depends. So let's just go through a few of the things, a few of the categories of information that may be redacted. Obviously, anything related to a victim. We don't want to provide addresses or any identifying information that could lead to understanding the identity of someone who was harmed. Cooperating witnesses. So if there were confidential sources or informants, if they're still cooperating in an ongoing investigation, and that is not going to be in there. And this is probably the biggest bucket, anything related to an ongoing investigation or a national security matter information. So if the DOJ says we are investigating an individual, that individual won't be listed. They'll have to explain why, but you're not going to see that information. And that can be active leads, uncharged subjects. It can even be things like surveillance methods or tech tools, undercover operations, and you can see how that could be a pretty big category of information where if they wanted to, they could say, we're not going to list this person because we're investigating them. That could be the entire client list if that exists.
Right.
And then, of course, grand jury material or any internal DOJ or FBI deliberations. That's going to be attorney-client privileged. They're not going to show that. And that's a lot of the work that was done in conducting these investigations.
So what you're saying is the Department of Justice, Eric, has a huge amount of latitude here.
They do. Now, the one difference here is it's a congressional inquiry and an act of Congress. So they're going to have to justify all the information that they redact or remove or is not presented and explain why it wasn't presented. Now, Congress has given them 15 days. That is an incredibly short time span. I suspect that they're going to ask for more time and it might be granted. And then I think we're going to have a fight back and forth for all of the blank spaces and what eventually becomes released.
So what will be released if we get rid of all of those, different categories that you've outlined here? I'm just curious, what are we going to see?
Well, that's the big question, right? We've seen 20,000 different emails, and there's a lot of information that's already been released. This is the investigation by the DOJ. So we're going to be able to see some insight into who they were investigating or how they were investigating or the avenues they were taking and how serious they found some of these issues with co-conspirators. But we're not going to see a lot of detail that will give us names or identities of people, particularly if they are still conducting investigations.
And what about, if you zoom out here, could this fight continue? So this stuff gets released, a lot of it's redacted or, kept out of the public eye, but then there are other fights to try and get more released and made public, or no?
I think right now the fight is going to be over the information that is not disclosed. Because people who understand how this works, and there will be many people like me who are talking about this into the next month, are going to be able to see the direction of the DOJ and the FBI in the investigation and then find those blank spaces and say, okay, what was in the blank space? That's what we really want to know, and that's where the fight will be, requesting that information. And it's not just going to be Congress. there will be many different organizations that are going to send Freedom of Information Act requests and say, no, we want this information, we want further information about this, and the DOJ and FBI are going to have to respond to that as well.
So it's been going on for years. You expect it will continue for years?
I think so. And, one of the things about this case is it's one of the biggest political footballs we've seen. It spans more than 2 administrations. And I think it's going to continue to be a game of inches rather than anybody making a touchdown.
Eric O'Neill in Washington, a former FBI counterintelligence operative, national security lawyer as well. Eric, thanks so much. Great to get you with us and give us some of the context on this one.
Great for having me.